You think you can move on. You tell yourself you're done, that you've accepted it. That time will heal what she broke. But then a song, a scent, a sudden thought hits you, and you're right back in that loop. The loop she left in your mind. You can't let her go, not because of love, but because your brain built her into your operating system. That's the secret nobody wants to admit. It's not about her anymore. It's about the part of you she hooked into and rewired. Everybody tells you it's attachment, nostalgia, trauma bonding. But that's the surface. The real mechanism is older, colder, deeper. It's the primitive part of the mind that mistakes emotional threat for survival value. When someone makes you feel both desire and danger, your brain labels them as essential. The mix of pleasure and pain becomes the drug. And once the brain equates survival with another person, reason is useless. You don't miss her. You miss the chemical chaos she created. You see, there's a lie we've all been sold, that closure means peace, that understanding means freedom. But that's another trap. The program running inside you doesn't care about understanding. It cares about repetition. Our minds are addicted to patterns that hurt, because familiar pain is safer than unknown peace. You replay moments with her not to find meaning, but to keep the pattern alive. You keep proving the same wound exists because your identity was built around trying to fix it. Let me break down the first layer of this. Memory is not neutral. It's emotional architecture. Every time you think of her, your body relives the same emotional frequency: dopamine, cortisol, adrenaline. The chemical loop feels like longing, but it's really rehearsal. You've trained your nervous system to fire up at the thought of her, to validate the pain as proof that it mattered. That's why you confuse intensity for depth. The stronger it hurts, the more meaningful it feels. But meaning and addiction look identical from the inside. I've seen men trapped in this loop for years. One told me he hadn't spoken to her in 5, yet still dreamed of her weekly. Not because he missed her, but because she represented the moment he lost control. Our ego hates losing control, so it returns to the scene of the fall again and again, trying to rewrite it. The dark truth is, you're not holding on to her. You're holding on to the moment you lost power. And until you face the part of you that's addicted to regaining it, she'll stay in your head like a ghost that feeds on resistance. Here's where it gets twisted. She doesn't even need to do anything now. Her absence becomes her presence. The silence becomes her voice. It's the mind filling in blanks with projection. You crafted a full consciousness of her inside yourself. That version whispers every time you compare. Every time someone new doesn't measure up. You built an idol out of unfinished emotion. And unfinished emotion is sacred to the wounded ego, because as long as something feels incomplete, you have a reason to not move on. There's another layer: expectation versus reality. In every relationship, there's a silent contract. You'll give me what I missed before, not consciously, but through the wound. Childhood programming teaches us which kind of love feels like home, even if home was chaos. So when her tone, her distance, her coldness matched what your nervous system calls normal, it felt right. Safe in its danger. That's why you stayed when logic screamed to leave. You weren't choosing her. You were choosing familiarity dressed as fate. Time and again, I see this pattern ruin strong men. They become reactive, paranoid, poetic about a woman who doesn't think of them. They replay texts like sacred scriptures, analyze body language like code. It's a slow self-erasure. The program at work here is called psychological inversion. Your value depends on how much pain you can endure. You start measuring love by how much it costs you. That's not romance. That's identification with the wound. But here's the paradox. The more you chase closure, the more the bond strengthens. The mind mistakes attention for importance. If you keep thinking about her, even stop missing her, you're feeding the same loop. It's like watering a weed and wondering why it won't die. The reason you can't let her go is because you keep trying to let her go directly. Letting go doesn't happen through rejection. It happens through reconstruction. by changing who's doing the remembering. There was a period in my life when I thought about someone every day for months. Everything reminded me of her. Coffee cups, city lights, old conversations replaying in my skull, until I caught the mechanism mid-operation. I noticed that every time I thought of her, I was trying to fix the story, rewrite the ending where I finally get understood. That's the loop. The ego can't tolerate unprocessed narratives. But liberation starts when you stop editing the past and let it stay unresolved. You don't need a better ending. You need a better identity. Here's the darkest truth about attraction. It binds you through contrast. High stakes. Real love is calm, but the mind equates calm with boredom. Drama feels alive. So we chase the people who confuse and trigger us because they make us feel, and we label that aliveness as love. That's how relationships become emotional casinos. Constant highs and lows, uncertainty as desire. You asked why you can't let her go? Because part of you still wants to gamble again. Now here's the test. The way out starts with brutal honesty. The test is simple. 1. Do you still check her activity, her posts, her status, just to make sure you moved on? 2. Do you replay arguments to prove yourself right in your head? 3. Do you compare new people to her, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and always find a subtle flaw? 4. Are you still waiting for her to realize your value, even if you pretend you're not? 5. Do you feel emptiness when your phone is silent, like the silence itself is accusing you? If you said yes to even one, the bond isn't love. It's programming. It happens more often than people realize. We confuse obsession for destiny. But obsession is what the mind does when it's deprived of meaning. The addiction to her is a symptom of an empty place inside you that was waiting long before she arrived. She just happened to fit the shape of the lack. That's why losing her felt like losing oxygen. But the truth is, she didn't take anything with her. She just stopped distracting you from yourself. Understanding this doesn't make the pain disappear instantly, but it turns pain into signal instead of identity. You start to see the pattern without merging with it. You begin to catch how your thoughts drift back to her when you feel uncertain, lonely, unseen. That's when you break the spell. You detach by noticing, not by fighting. Because what your mind resists, your body repeats. But what you observe clearly dissolves. So here's what you need to accept. It's not your fault you got hooked. The mechanism is ancient, mechanical, and indifferent. Your brain was built to bond, your consciousness to attach meaning. But her happiness, her chaos, her distance, none of that is your responsibility to solve. You played your part. The rest is hers. In the end, letting go isn't about cutting her out. It's about removing the version of yourself that came alive through her absence. Once that version dies, so does the addiction. And when that day comes, you'll realize something fierce. She was never yours to lose because she never existed the way your mind remembered her. Her happiness is her responsibility. And until she takes that responsibility, she'll remain unhappy no matter what you do, who she's with, or what she has.